Hello everyone, this is Saima and today's video is about narcissism. It's a very hot topic, it's been a very talked about topic, especially because of a certain president whose behavior is so unusual from a leader, that people have and many psychologists have called him a narcissist and said that he has narcissistic personality disorder. Now, we all have some degree of narcissism, which is, and basically, narcissism is being very obsessed with oneself, being very, very selfish, and only being aware of your own self all the time. So, we're very, very self directed. But before I launch into narcissism and what it is and what it isn't, and when is it that it's healthy and when is it that it's not healthy, I would like to talk about the origins of the word narcissism. Narcissus was a young man in Greek mythology who was actually going out with a girl called Echo. Echo was in love with him. And just the word can tell you a little bit about what's to come next. Echo was in love with him, but Narcissus, and that was his name, Narcissus, from the flower, was in love with himself. He saw his reflection in the river and became so entranced that he lay down and just looked at himself until he died. And Echo had been cursed to only repeat the last word. So she could only echo. So she had no ability to express her own thoughts and feelings. So she was completely blocked in her throat. She could only repeat what the other person said. So here we come to the story of the narcissist and the empath. And this is a very, very important part to understand the dynamic of the two. The empath is very focused on the other person, and it was the same with Echo. Echo was very focused on what Narcissus was feeling or thinking, so much so that she could only repeat what he says. She could only repeat whatever he said. She could not have her own opinion. She could not ask for her own needs. She could not say what she wants. She just wasn't allowed. She had been cursed. And so, in many dynamics where there is one person with an inadvertently high level of power, the other person may feel like their opinion, their needs, their feelings do not matter. I don't matter. That's the message that the narcissistic person gives to the other person in the dynamic. My feelings matter more than yours. My worldview is the right one. It is the important one. You are saying something that is not true. You are being, bad to me by suggesting an alternative viewpoint. So, narcissistic people have extreme difficulty accepting anyone else's viewpoint. They cannot. I mean, the higher the narcissism, the more difficult it is for them to accept another person's point of view. Narcissists can often cut down people, can intimidate them physically through yelling or through, physical means as well, or even by stonewalling, like completely leaving the room. So the other person feels absolutely awful about having a differing opinion. They can use guilt as the major manipulation tool is guilt, especially if they get somebody into a relationship with them. Now, all their feelings, the narcissist feels or thinks and believes that all their feelings are now the responsibility of their partner. The partner has to make them happy, the partner has to please them. And if the partner does not please them or make them happy, they now have a valid concern that the partner is not performing. as per their required performance metrics, literally. And they can pick on something as simple as the food, and they can throw fits about the food, and they can be completely oblivious to any self responsibility, that why they're throwing the fit. It's not nice to do that to another person. They are oblivious to that, and they can just throw this big fit and throw the dishes on the floor. Or so that's like a really there are many levels of narcissism, but some typical behaviors are just throwing dishes, for example, yelling, saying that you have burnt the food again. Like food can be a way that they really express their complaint. And I'm just sort of seeing this as a situation where one of the partners comes home and just kind of really complains about the way the home is kept, for example. Why hasn't the food been cooked? Why are the children still playing? Why is it that you should have by this time cooked something? And they may get so angry that they throw dishes, for example. Or they just kind of say, what is wrong with you? Why can't you make sure that the food is cooked by the time I come home? And so that's one kind of example of how narcissism can play out. So they have absolutely no clue that the other person was having a feeling, or was feeling really upset, or didn't have the energy or the time, or maybe one of the kids was sick. So they have no clue about that. They don't really think that's their problem as such. It's basically their partner's problem. The partner has to make sure that things are done properly. And if the partner has not done that, then the narcissist is going to complain, and he's going to, throw fits and tantrums, little tantrums, and blame someone. So their tendency is to blame someone. And the reason why they do that is because they believe completely in their own worldview. They believe that their partner has to meet their expectations, has to make sure that things are done a certain way every day, and that they almost come across as extremely, they don't just come, they are very controlling, and they'll control through a variety of tools. One of them could be emotional. So they would have some do some emotional abuse. It could be even sexual. So for example, if the partner wants intimacy, the narcissistic person may deny them intimacy, or be very very rejective, like very very like, oh, I don't, you want it again, how come like, not really interested in pleasing their partner. So that could be very subtle covert kind of narcissism, and that could be on a regular daily basis. So when I do talk about narcissism, I don't mean that a person who does this once in a while or is in a bad mood. I'm not talking about once in a while. I'm talking about patterns of behavior that are repeated over and over again, until you're absolutely clear that this is the way this person is. No matter what you do or say, you have tried to have the conversations with this person, and they still do this. So there's a tolerance level here. And this kind of acting out and this kind of control tactic, it can go into the region of abuse. So it becomes abuse when it's regularly done. It's done in order to bring down the other person. So say the other person has high self-esteem, or they have some kind of talent. The narcissistic person does not like that. The narcissism basically is rooted in a sense of envy. There's a tremendous envy below the surface for this person, and they are not aware of it. They project it outwards. They think that other people are less than them, and they just completely want to make sure that they stay superior to everybody else. And so they will make sure that other people do what they are asking them to do and what they need done, or they will blame. So one of the core emotions of a narcissistic person is envy, and always sort of coming out, or appearing better than the other person. I'm better than you. I mean, you could have a PhD, but the narcissist will act as if a PhD is of no real value. So there'll be that sort of dismissiveness about the worth of the other person. And then that is rooted in envy and tremendous insecurity. The second characteristic of a narcissistic person is that they have no remorse. So seeing somebody's tears does not make them feel bad. I have been in a couple of narcissistic relationships, and I really kid you not that my pain had absolutely no impact on the other person. Not that I wanted it to have an impact, it was just that it was feeling really bad, and so my emotions came out and I, grieved. And that's a very normal response if somebody is saying things or doing things that are very hurtful. However, that had no impact on the other person. They just completely didn't care. And they showed that by either walking away completely in that moment, and never apologizing or never asking, if I were okay. And the other ways that, narcissists can act is that they can say, they can blame you for your own tears. They'll say something like, you're crying like this. They may not actually acknowledge that you are crying. They'll say something like, you deserve this because you burnt the food. If you hadn't burnt the food, you wouldn't be crying right now. you know so I was told something like, oh, you're going after my friendship. You're trying to destroy the one friendship I have. And so that is how deeply selfish the other person is. There's no empathy for the person who's trying to tell them something and their point of view. They are just fixated on what they want and need from life, period. And that's all that matters to them. It doesn't matter to them if another person is sad or upset or anything like that. So, if you really want to do the litmus test or whether somebody is narcissistic, one great way is to express your feelings. And by expressing your feelings, I mean, I don't necessarily mean that you act out on them, but in fact, just to state them. If you say something like, I feel really upset when, it seems to you, it seems to me that my relationship or our relationship isn't that important because we made a plan to do something and then you again, went off to do something else with your friend. And I thought we were working together on this, and now your friend is involved. So I feel a little bit concerned whether, how loyal you are or how committed you are to this situation, to this plan that we had. Now, this is a reasonable thing to say because it's an assertive statement. I feel XY because of this behavior, because I wonder if I should invest my time in this project. If because when you sort of disregard any plans that we had, that's a and you forgot all about it and you went off with your friend and you worked on this project with your friend. I thought you and I had committed to work on this project. So you have just explained, for example, that was the situation I was in. So you just explained this to them that you're upset because of this, and their response, instead of saying, oh, I'm really sorry about that, I didn't realize that. Or their response could be, I'm thinking that that person would be a better partner for me in this particular project, so I'd like to work with them. Or they could say, I just didn't realize, that I forgot the plan that we have, but now that you're saying this, I will look at why I did that and I'll let you know. What is your concern? Do you feel okay about continuing to work with me? Do you have any reservations on doing this project together? Let me know, like you could have an honest conversation basically about how much time you want to commit to a project with this person, and the other person says the same thing, and you could have a more honest conversation. But a narcissistic person is going to accuse you. Narcissistic person is going to say, you are after my friendships and you are trying to control me, and or something like, you're a really bad person. You are a bad person for questioning what I do. Even though you're their partner, you're their, maybe your business partner, maybe you're their sister, maybe you're their wife, maybe you're their best friend who's known them since they were 5 years old, maybe you're an uncle. Whoever you are, the narcissist is going to dismiss, deflect, blame, and paint themselves as the victim. They are the victim. You are the predator. You are the aggressor. You are the one in power, pushing them down. They are always the victim. So these, two characteristics of narcissists is the envy, and the second is that they're always the victim. Now, the thing is this, that Echo, in this Greek mythic story, Echo had no voice. Echo had no choice but to repeat whatever the narcissist does. Okay, so for many people, maybe being like Echo works. It doesn't give them any sickness, it doesn't bother them in any way. They can live with a narcissist for the 30 years or 40 years, 50 years without getting sick. For normal people, people like myself and you and anybody watching this channel, that is impossible. The partners of narcissists get sick, they get depressed, they get anxiety, they can even get cancer. um, Emotion, any kind of long term emotion that is pushed down into the body over a period of time, can create a sickness. Because the feelings are unexpressed for so long, it can create a sickness. Yeah, and depression is actually, I would say, also a somatization type of response, and you can watch my videos on for somatization to learn more about it. So say it's you're with a narcissist and you're in a relationship pattern where you are never right, where that person is always right. They're always the victim. They're always acting out and complaining about the smallest of things. What are you going to do? What have you tried in the past? And you can put the comments down below this. What kind of things have you tried to make this person happier, calmer, more accepting, and kinder to you? What have you done in order to manipulate them? And I call this manipulation simply because whenever there is an unequal power, we try all sorts of things, and manipulation is one of the things that human beings try. So, it could be because you have no power, so you're trying to manipulate them in some way. So maybe you give them a treat. You say something like, you know what, I'll invest $10,000. And I'll connect you to 2 or 3 very powerful people. And so that's the way that person, that example I told you about in working on a project together with someone, and that person is narcissistic. You could say, here, I've got 2 or 3 people who will be willing to accept, work in your company, and that's the way you sort of secure your, partnership with this person. How do you feel though? Can you really trust somebody who does this? Most people will say no. But if people feel that they have some kind of benefit from placating the narcissist, which is probably why narcissists become very powerful. They have the network, they have the kind of connections many times. They know a lot of people, they have some kind of clout, or people perceive that this person has some kind of power, some kind of clout. So that is the why a lot of people kind of accept this sort of thing, and they kind of give more and more to the relationship. So in this situation where this person says, okay, I'll give you a project, I'll give you some network, social connections or network, and I'll invest some money in that project. This is the way we sweeten the deal. And so when we sweeten the deal, what that means is we give more. So say we're in a relationship with a narcissistic person who is very, mean, in the sense that they don't want to give anything to the relationship. So an empath, many times, people who are just nice people, they'll do is they'll start to sweeten the deal. They'll say, hey, you can't do rent this time, you know what, I'll put in the rent. You're not able to do this, never mind, I'll take the share of, the bills. So that way they feel like, they're giving more, so then their power is going to be equal. So, when we give more, we raise our power in some ways. But in the narcissist world, that's not true. So a lot of you empaths who start to give more in order to balance the power scale, that is exactly what the narcissist is counting on. He knows that, once he takes away the power, he or she takes away the power, then you're going to start to build up the power by rescuing or giving more to the relationship, because that will elevate you. Because they've succeeded in making you feel smaller, feeling less than them, making you feel like you need them more. And that can happen. It's very complicated why, how narcissists are able to do that, but they definitely have a level of power which is very interesting in the dynamic of the situation. They can just make you feel sorry for them. They can, so they'll kind of create some kind of a power disbalance where they are suddenly the people you're giving more to. They'll create pity. They'll create a victim feeling in you, that they poor things, they're victims, and they can also exert social influence. So, hey, if I stand up to this guy, then, they're going to talk bad about me. So if you care a lot about your reputation, what people think of you, you're an empath and it really matters to you that everybody likes you, then that's another tool that the narcissist has. He or she may have noticed that you really care a lot about other people and what they think of you. So they're going to use that tool. So, dealing with a narcissist is not easy. It's like walking in a forest with snakes. Honestly, they slither all over your feet. They're all over you. They are, masters at the art of control, manipulation, and you cannot win with a narcissist. Don't ever try winning with a narcissist, because narcissist game is completely different from any game that your mind can make up. You can't even get to the level that a narcissist can. They can think in ways you can never think. And don't make this an ego issue, that you have to defeat the narcissist or outwit the narcissist. I've been there, tried that. Absolute failure is all I had, because as an empath, as a kind person, as an ethical person, at the end of the day, we want to feel proud of ourselves. We want to feel good about ourselves. And when we come down to the level of the narcissist in order to show them anything, or prove anything, or show them who's boss, or anything or like that, any ego battle, the good guy, the person who actually has the moral values and has the conscience, they're the ones who are going to stop liking themselves, because they'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm sinking down to this person's level, and it made no difference. They did not change. They did a tactic that was even worse than the last one. And that's probably why it's so hard to deal with President Trump. Very, very hard to deal with a narcissist, because they will pull tricks you have never in your life imagined. You just can't even think of the kind of tricks that they will do. Now, that doesn't mean they're smarter or better people, or that we need to learn to be like that. Don't let your ego get stuck there. Okay? Don't let your ego stuck there. What I would suggest, and this is because I learned this the hard way, and now I follow this, and my life is so much more peace, because I'm no longer trying to go into pitch battles with people like that is that you surrender, you say, yes, you're the boss, and you are gentle and you leave. That is the only language that narcissistic people can understand, which is that when the door shuts on their face and it does not ever open again. It takes a tremendous willpower, it takes courage, it takes tears, it takes heartaches, and I'm not, invalidating any of the pain that you are going to feel when you do this. But honestly, there is no other way, at least none that I personally have found in any of the narcissistic people I have dealt with in my life. Initially, I could not recognize it. I thought the fault was mine. So I tried to kind of fix this through changing myself, through doing all sorts of things. Then I realized the fault was actually theirs, but I was still, holding the bag in terms of the responsibility for everything. Because one of the great things that narcissists are able to do is blame shifting and shifting responsibility on their victims. You have to, at some level, accept that you are going to look like the bad one. You are going to look like the idiot. You are going to be left foolish. And that is when you're going to realize who your real friends are and who you really are as a person. And it's going to be a bit of a dark night of the soul, in my humble opinion, simply because, after going through narcissistic abuse, there is a tremendous change in the brain. I talked a little bit about trauma in the previous videos, but basically, when we have something like narcissistic abuse, it's actually really subtle and it's very deep. It actually affects the way you think about yourself. It's going to take therapy. It's going to take time for you to start feeling whole again, feeling like yourself again, feeling like you have self respect, that you are worthy. And they are going to mess with the way you think about yourself. So that's what narcissists are good at doing, because they completely shift the blame on you. So you feel like the bad person, you feel like the crazy one, you feel like the bad, that insane sort of person, or the overly passionate, or the idiot in the story, the selfish person. So be prepared for that, that you're not going to like yourself for a little while. You're going to not have a very high self-esteem after shutting the door on a narcissist. And I know I'm going to say these things and they're going to not make much sense. You're going to probably listen to them and you're going to think, oh my goodness, no, not me. That's not going to happen to me. He's not really a narcissist. So these are all ways in which we gaslight ourselves, because it's so hard for us to even conceptualize that another human being could be kind of, a narcissist. And we don't want to see that, right? We're empaths. We want to see that the world is happy, we're all connected, there's love and light in the world. So it's very, very hard for empaths actually to recover from narcissistic abuse. It's a little bit harder than, other kinds of abuse. In my opinion, this one is probably the hardest because of the lack of empathy and the lack of remorse that narcissists display. They just will never tell you they're sorry. You're the one who's going to feel sorry. You'll be like, what did I think? What was I worth? I mean, this person got away with all this and they still are not alone. And here I am. And who lost? So accept that, one great tip that I can give for narcissistic recovery is to accept you're the loser here. Bite the bullet, eat the dust. They won and they walked away, or you shut the door on them, whichever way it went. You're the loser in this relationship. And that sometimes is that ego battle that we have. How can I be the loser in this relationship? What did I do wrong to deserve this? Why is society so against women? Or if it's a male narcissist, or a man may feel, why is society so judgmental that, only men abuse. And a man may feel like their point of view was never even heard. and everybody judges them that they somehow failed the woman. So whichever way, wherever you are in your story, you're going to feel, some very tough stuff. You know, being left out, for example, like just feeling like, your point of view was never heard. And that is actually very, very true. The one thing that narcissists excel at is never hearing your point of view, never with a capital N. So, you probably would like to know what about my pitch battles. I don't know if you want to know, but I have taken on, stands. I've been that person who's been the vulnerable one, and expressed my feelings and stood in the middle of the room on a couple of occasions in my life, and some went very well. In the sense that 10 years later, I got that apology, I got that chance to be heard, and I was able to get that apology. 10 years though. And then in one situation, I never got the apology, but I asked for it only last year. The third case, I wish them well. I really don't want to have any interaction with them because, thankfully, I have a very fulfilling life. I can't ask for more. I think God has been generous to me. I think people have been really kind to me. So I have no regret that they went off and found other people. I actually feel sorry for their partners. I actually feel sorry for them because people who can live with narcissists, sometimes are narcissists themselves or very, very manipulative. So it takes a snake to live with a snake. So I don't regret that in the least that I lost out, from narcissists. Anything else that I can share with you that would help you on this journey? This information that I'm sharing with you, I know it's very spontaneous, it's very informal. It's like you're sitting in my drawing room, which is really what is happening here. I am working on improving my videos and kind of make them more educational and more professional. But bear with me because a lot of my work really comes from my heart, and I am not scared of sharing my authentic truth, who I am as a person, because I feel that is the right thing to do, is to tell you where I come from and what I'm taking a stand on, and to also let you know that the work is never done. I'm still working on myself. I'm still healing. I'm probably going to do that the rest of my life. And so I don't have all the answers. It's your judgment call in the end, how much you tolerate and why you tolerate. And that's fine. But be aware of what you're signing. Read the fine print carefully. And once you're aware of what you're signing, figure out your coping strategy. So you need to stay with a narcissist, for example. What are your coping strategies? Who are your support group? What kind of boundaries are you willing and able to implement? What are you going to do for yourself that you stop being triggered by the narcissist? How can you, create a plan for your well-being if you are going to stay in a narcissistic relationship that does affect you? Now, there are situations in which people get so inured and accommodated over time, and I've seen that actually. They get so used to the lack of emotional availability of the narcissist. They just find ways to deal with it. They just create a distance from the narcissist, which is safe, physical distance that's safe. So, physical distance is a big one actually. They create a safe physical distance. The narcissist accepts that without being told. So, one more tip, if that's what you need to do, is to not tell the narcissist what you want. That never works, okay? Because their job is not to make you happy or to create harmony in the relationship. Their job is simply to get your attention. They cannot relate at the level you would like them to relate because they are not very mature. So, you telling them that, I need physical distance from you because, you kind of yell and shout at me. Uh oh. They're going to tell you exactly why you deserve that, exactly why it's your problem and you have the mental health issue and you have the physical issue and you're the sick one who needs the physical distance. So my friend, my big tip to you is to not tell them why you're doing it and what you're doing, but just to do it anyway. So with more normal personalities, I would say that you can tell them assertively, I feel this and therefore can you do this because you do that. So kind of frame it and have those feeling conversations. Or hire a therapist and have those feeling conversations. I guarantee you one thing, that if this person that you're trying to make a relationship work is a narcissist, they will not go into a therapist's office. They will never go into a therapist's office. They will accuse the therapist of being, what's there's the five or six narcissistic people that I have had the opportunity to get to know, and either the therapist is a liar, is a therapist is a cheat, or the therapist doesn't know what they're doing, and the narcissist actually knows better. Or they could say something like, it's against their belief system, and therapy doesn't work. So, whatever it is, you will not be able to get a narcissist to go to a therapist's office for counseling. If they do go, there'll be resistance. They may go for a few sessions and then they're gone. They're not going to pursue with this because it's very difficult for them to learn and change. Remember the Narcissus story in the Greek mythology, that Narcissus keeps looking at the water, in the reflection of himself in the water. Like, if they were able to get their head out of themselves and look at another person, yeah, they're not able to. They're in a relationship with themselves. They are not in a relationship with you. They're in a relationship with their projections. They're projecting everything on you. They're projecting their shadow side on you. So if they are envious, they'll tell you you're envious. If you are, if they are basically very angry about how somebody treated them, they will tell you that you are that person. You're like that person. Like, I was told I was some kind of an agent, by one narcissist once. So it was very interesting. It would be laughable if it wasn't heartbreaking, because you can see that they're in a lot of pain. You can see as an empath that they're very angry, they're very upset. But for you to try and help them is next to impossible, because they are fixated and their vision only goes till here. So it's only till here. They are always right. And they need that security to actually behave better. So if you challenge that insecurity that they have deeply and say, okay, so you keep talking about, how talented you are. What have you to show for it for the last year? Oh my goodness. You keep telling us that you're, so learned in this area, like you know Latin very well, or say you know this religion, Judaism very well. So tell us about it, like what does it say about, etc. And how come you don't practice it, for example? Like, it could be any area that you challenge them. They are not going to like it at all, and there will only be conflict and there'll only be fighting. So the ego massaging, or just staying quiet, just staying quiet and not massaging their ego, that would be a strategy that you could do, which is often called the gray rocking. So you do not react to what they're saying. You just let it go. You just sit there like a gray rock, no reaction. So that's number two. You don't tell them why you're there, what reason you're staying in the relationship if you do decide to stay. And then you put your boundaries in. And physical boundaries, I think, are very, very necessary, especially if you get sick around them. So, physical boundaries would mean that you make sure you're not in the same room for longer than 5 minutes, for example. Physical boundaries mean that you are not facing them directly chest to chest. You sort of sit on the side. So you are not in their energy field, because their anger, their negativity, if you're an empath, you're going to energetically feel it. And it's going to affect you at a subtle level. You'll be suddenly drained, because you're feeling that anger when they act out at you. So, and you're going to put it away somewhere in your body, so it's going to drain you. And this happens like spontaneously, like within 30 seconds. It's very, very easy to tell somebody, oh, be in this relationship for the greater good of humanity or your children or whatever. To do it on a daily basis, to kind of keep living with a narcissist, I think is one most difficult thing. It's going to make most people sick over time. They're going to develop pathology. Like it or not, I really think that it should be considered as a disorder in the DSM. And I really, really think that there should be more therapy available, and there should be screening for that kind of behavior. So organizations do not hire people who are on the antisocial or on the narcissistic scale, and they get early treatment, right from the beginning of life, right from teenage years, right from childhood. I really, really think that, but then that's a very proactive statement to make. And for us to get there, we need to get more aware of these issues, instead of pretending that mental health doesn't even exist as a paradigm, that there's no such thing as psychology, that, it's just fluff. And nothing could be further from the truth. Psychology and emotional wellness, happiness, these are highly important things for a society. It, creates the kind of society which is safe, which is productive, which has equality, which has, food for everybody. So anyway, this is one major, thing that you can do for recovery, is boundaries, and not sharing your strategy with the narcissist because they're not capable of it. Just implementing it on a consistent basis. So that's one major thing. The other part of it is to make sure that you are getting support. So the support could come from self care, doing meditation, doing your journaling, doing your socializing, whatever it is you need to stay sane. And then once again, keep your expectations extremely low from the narcissist. Remember that it is always and will always be about them in the relationship. You are echo. You cannot be anyone else for a narcissist, because their head is in the water looking at themselves. They cannot look at another human being. They have no real remorse, and will always be the victim. So you call them up and you say, please do this for me. I asked you to do this 2 years ago. You didn't do it. Can you please do this now? I really need it. It'll be your fault. How dare you call them and ask them? Why are you calling them? Why are you bothering them? So it's just going to go on and on and on, and over a period of time, it can really, kind of play with your sanity. So living with narcissists is not easy. Doing a diagnosis whether this is narcissistic or not, I mean, you can find these self-tests online, and you can go and tell your doctor this, you can tell your family that this person is a narcissist. But at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. What really matters is how you cope with it, what you decide, what are your choices, and making the best choice of all of them that helps you function adequately. So, don't get too hung up on the diagnosis. Don't try to expose a narcissist. That's not going to go down well. Don't try to pick a battle with a narcissist. You're going to start becoming like one. And, honestly, I've tried that. It hasn't worked. And I would never advise anybody to try that again. I would like to basically help people to get out in one, piece from narcissistic abuse. The battling just doesn't help, even though, yes, there's a lot of anger and you're very valid, you're very right. But I've generally found, like from my own experience, that it doesn't, they don't change. And you can then, really get hurt and feel bad and start to give up on your ideals, because you can get so discouraged and disappointed from life that there are people like this that you may get depressed, which is the kind of thing that happened to me. I got very depressed that, if this is all there is this all there is out there? No, no, it's not. It may be familiar to you, and that's the reason why you ended up with them, is because it was familiar to you. Maybe it wasn't okay for you to be seen and heard as a child. You just weren't supposed to express your feelings, and so you just carried that pattern into the relationship with the narcissist, and maybe for a while you just didn't even realize you weren't supposed to do this, that this is actually abuse and this is actually traumatic. And so maybe you just didn't have the courage to kind of, put a stop to it and run. Maybe there was a lot of social judgment or a lot of need to be in a relationship, which kept you in that relationship. So, whatever the fact is, the point is you can change your mind at any time. You can put boundaries at any time. You can learn how to work effectively with another person. It could be that, this person that you're with is not a narcissist, then, but still you can't actually solve somebody's problems for them. They have to figure out their own mental health problems. You can't do it for them. The only thing you can do is take care of yourself and figure out boundaries that keep you healthy, and figure out the habits that, are helpful to you. So I hope this video is helpful. It's about Echo and Narcissus. And if you have found your voice, please do comment, share, like, and if you think this information is useful, feel free to share it. And tell me what you would like to hear about next. And I really, really appreciate you watching this video. Thank you. Bye now.